We're the Unproducers. This is PUELLA MAGI MADOKA MAGICA. This is Rebel Yell. And it's whiskey time.
Come on, let's go to the street. Looking for a traffic lift. I don't give a fuck, never mind. We're ready to start, yeah. It's fucking whiskey time.
Let's open up. Maybe.
You can do it. You can do it. It's got a black synthetic cork. I'm trying not to spill it everywhere.
No more anyway. Round two.
Yeah, already.
You gotta be drunk to watch anime. Fucking Christ.
Drunk at least. Drunk after you watch this one.
This is an anime. It's about cartoon magical girls. How'd you feel about this anime, Eric? PUELLA MAGI MADOKA MAGICA for the second time. How'd you feel about it?
I really enjoyed it. It was on the list of stuff I wanted to watch for a long time. I like Sailor Moon, so I'm like, yeah, magical girls, that's cool. And then this deconstructed and ruined everything I love. And then threw some, like, physics at me? I wasn't expecting to have the heat death of the universe thrown in my face in a magical girl anime.
It is what it is. Yeah, I really like the show too. I've liked it. I'm trying to remember the first time I watched it. It was probably a little bit after it came out, so probably 2013 or 2014. I watched it originally, but I binged it all in one sitting. I think it's more fun that way.
It's also not very long, so it's very possible to do that.
Of course, something interesting that I just thought about, but the way they marketed the show was they didn't talk about it like it was going to be a show that had really dark elements. They marketed it just as sort of a regular magical girl show, and not that they're...
And it looks like a regular magical girl show.
I know, in terms of aesthetics, yeah. It's for the on the surface anyway.
Right.
Until you get to the weird shit.
The studio that did this also did the Monogatari series, right?
Yeah.
That's why you have like these really weird, kind of stilted scenes of people talking, but they constantly shift around and look at each other weird. And all that's also why you see a lot of like foot shuffling. You see a lot of foot movement.
Anything to fill the conversation space.
Right, which I appreciate.
Oh,
it makes it more interesting and easier
yeah.
to follow the conversation. It's just a little weird sometimes.
So, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the first thing on our little list was the cinematography, which was something that, when we watch stuff, normally that's not something that you
would even think about.
That you point out to me. I don't know if I consciously notice it a lot of the time, but I like good. So there's certain kinds of cinematography I like and stuff.
Right.
And so when you pointed it out, I knew that if we talked about it, that'd probably be something we talked about it, because just little stuff like that. But
when I care about it,
yeah,
it's important, because normally I don't care what this show looks like, how it moves. I care more about the plot and like the characters more than anything. Usually, like it could be like 3 stick figures talking, and as long as it's an interesting conversation, an interesting story, I don't care. But like as soon as you see, and I knew it's almost from like in the first 3 episodes that it had to have been the same people that made it.
Yeah, because I think you mentioned
it's so similar in the way that they just the way the characters move.
Studio Shaft, by the way, is the name of the studio.
Right.
So, Yeah, it is obvious, and even the normal cinematography, just in the kind of the mundane sort of scenes, is entertaining enough, and a lot of it also gets called back to later on,
right?
Because the show is kind of self-referential in that way, especially with the. So before I say anything, are we just we're going full spoilers, right? Who gives a fuck?
I don't. How the show is what 7 years old at this point?
It is, or almost is, yeah.
So if you haven't watched it, go watch it and then watch this video. And if not, go fuck yourself.
Thanks to time travel, the cinematography gets a lot of callbacks later on when you see things that happened in other timelines and shit. Right. But also, I think if we're talking about cinematography, also just the visuals in general, all of the the surrealistic paper mache and weird art styles and collage.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me a lot of the boss intros from No More Heroes Desperate Struggle. Because, every boss has, their own, weird... It almost is the same thing as Madoka Magica, which it very well could be a reference to, because that game series is very, references anime and other kinds of, nerd culture stuff all the time. So it could very well be a callback to that. To the show.
Yeah, and it's just... It makes the entire show just... It's interesting. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just if all of the good, interesting characters and all that shit could be gone, and it's still just fun to watch.
Right. Well, the thing is, you watch the original series for Sailor Moon, right? The fights are anything but this spectacle. I mean, they're appealing as far as what they are, but as soon as you watch Madoka Magica and as soon as the style changes for these fights, you're like, I'm tuned in, I'm watching this fight, there's nothing else I care about right now other than watching, Homura fighting a witch, or, what's her face? Who's the... Tomoe, right? The blonde one? I forget the girl's names, because, she's... Mommy, yeah. Mommy fighting that one witch and then getting her fucking head eaten. Yeah. Which doesn't make any sense, now that I think about it, because later on... So, one of the ways that this show is body horror is that they have their soul pulled out of their body and made into a jewel that allows them to use magic. And there's a part where Sayaka gets her soul thrown away, she deanimates as a human, and that's why they all find out and all start freaking their shit. Because, honestly, I'd freak my shit too. But
understandably.
So, because that way they can heal their bodies faster, right? So that way catastrophic injury does not destroy their body, and it allows them to fight. So Mommy gets her fucking head bitten off, right? So why can't she still fight as just a headless corpse? Because it's already a corpse party.
Where does she wear her gem? Do you remember? Is it in her hair?
Is it in her hair?
That's what I'm trying.
I thought they all wore it as in their chest.
They all wore it in different places.
Oh, it might be in her hair.
Technical break. Look it up because I want to know. Look up a picture of her in costume.
Oh, nope. Yep, it is on her head.
Okay.
That was funny.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks to the power of the internet, we've discovered that it is indeed in her head, so that's what I would say.
Okay, that makes sense.
It gets destroyed.
Because for some reason I just thought they all wore it on their chest as part of their bow or whatever, because they all end up having a bow on their outfit. Is it a uniform? Do the magical girls get a uniform? Is that what it is? They get conscripted into the witch fighting army, so
something I don't remember, but I kind of recall that when you see the other magical girls throughout time, they kind of have similar outfits. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah.
They don't have crazily different outfits, so I'm thinking it's kind of a uniform.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they looked really different, depending on the culture, you could say it's a reflection of
what
they would, what they would desire or whatever, however you want to interpret that.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying. I just don't know if it should be considered a costume or a uniform. I'm just trying to
Let's call it a costumiform.
Costumiform. All right. So
I don't know. I was gonna say something else about the visuals, so I don't know.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
another thing I like about this, all the witches having their own kind of aesthetic and the surrealism of it, is you kind of don't understand this until the stuff with Sayaka and her domain, where it's obviously reflective of her personality, but a lot of the fan base at the time and still now, they like to look at the surrealism in the design of the different witches and their domains and say like, well, maybe this happened to them, or it allows you to kind of...
Doesn't it also have something to do with what they wished for as well?
Yeah, just
because
people...
the witches are former magical girls who had their souls tainted too much and they turned into witches. So, and I think because during the Sayaka fight, it's like there's like music stuff. There's like almost she looks like a composer is like the witch. And, like,
so it's I doubt when they made it that they said this is based on, let's make a character and then have the character, then design the witch stuff based on the character. I doubt they would do that.
Right.
They could have, but they could just throw things in there that kind of relate and make sense. Right. And then that allows the fans to kind of make an assumption about, I've seen it online and people do it. And it's not like there's a definitive answer. It's just another, if you don't care about that, then it's on the screen for a couple minutes and it's fun to look at. Right. But the people who love the show, they go back and they try to examine it and say, what kind of character was this? And what kind of character was this? And it's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely just good. That's just, it allows the audience to engage an extra way, and that's always a good thing in my opinion. So.
And so, like, one of the, I guess we could kind of move on from the visuals because I don't know how much more we have to say about it. But, like, one of the major things in this show is, like, the dichotomy between selfishness and selflessness, almost. Because Madoka is very much like, I want to be there for everybody. Nobody should have to suffer because of me. And everyone else around her is very selfish on the surface. But to me, Madoka is almost the epitome of selfishness because she forces herself onto and into the situations that puts her in danger and ultimately causes the corruption of her friend because she forces her to have to fight harder because she's there as a civilian.
Yeah, so I think thematically that's one of the strongest. They and most people I think, but in the series, most of the characters are trying to act selflessly to the best of their ability. That's right. But because they're human beings and they're not perfect, there's always that underlying selfishness to some extent. It's not even subtle. It's extremely like when Kyoko shows up and she's talking to Sayaka, she's like, did you make the wish because you wanted him to get better, or did you want him to love you because you made him better? Right. And that's just an example, and that's an interesting point about Madoka, because I was going to say, obviously, at the end, when it comes to the ending, she's becoming the epitome of selflessness because she's sacrificing herself for everybody else.
She becomes the avatar of hope.
So, and now when I hadn't even thought about what you were saying, but that's true because I don't think she means to, but what happens is I don't think she does it on purpose, but compared to all the other characters, she is very vulnerable and helpless.
Right. Yeah.
So everyone is always protecting her. And I think that, she's trying to be there for them, but she's not thinking about the effect that she's having on them. Right. And I don't know if I would necessarily fault her for it, but it definitely has that aspect of selfishness to it.
Right.
Which then makes it better that she has the selfishness that's most hidden of anybody, but her arc takes her to this most selfless place of anybody by the end, considering she's the main character.
Exactly. She has become a magical girl until the last 5-10 minutes of episode 12.
Yeah, the very end of the series. So,
and her selflessness, if you will, / selfishness, completely ruins Homura's complete original personality. She becomes a completely different person because Madoka is the way that she is
through time and space and all this other stuff. Yeah,
and it's her like combination of this weird selfish / selflessness that like puts her in the position to make that ultimate like selfless move.
Yeah,
because
she's the one that's there.
She literally becomes the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Like, everything around is happening because of her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's strangely... It's really weird when you think about it.
It's weird, and it's very satisfying, like, as a whole, because the whole show, she's never, like, the one taking action in the events. She's always, like, an observer, for the most part.
Right.
But then, you get to the end, and you find out that she really was the center of everything. Right. Not necessarily just because of her own actions, but still it all revolves around her, and that's why she's the central character. Yeah.
That and like she takes the moment she takes action, she actually makes a very selfless move and becomes God.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think all the characters, I think it's an obvious thing. They all have their own degrees of...
Right, and this show, I think, has one of the best demonstrations of time travel and, like, the butterfly effects of time travel.
Yeah.
Because at the very end, you have Madoka who makes the wish that I wish no magical girl ever becomes a witch. So basically, she kills them before they can become a witch. So no witch ever exists. Therefore, like... every magical girl, it just completely rewrites the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
And since her wish uses up all of her magic then to make her into the concept of hope, that way nobody ever loses hope and becomes a witch, a giant witch is made that then has to be destroyed because no magical girl ever becomes a witch due to her wish. And it's just like a crazy... It has to be a cycle of just what's going on. And it's also very interesting because they mention that many of the magical girls are like famous women throughout history. Cleopatra, Jeanne d'Arc. And it's like... So, how did they actually die?
I don't
Viper
know.
Or
who fucking knows?
So, but my question is, how many magical girls are there at any time ever? Because they all seem to have their own hunting grounds that they all maintain.
They all have their own territories, and yeah, it's not made obvious because we only see We don't even know how much of the city that we see necessarily. You know what I mean?
Right. And there could be, and how many of the Cubes are there? It doesn't seem like there's any set rules for the magical girls.
And stuff like that, stuff that's kind of left open, is one way that you get people to attach to the series, because guess what they do?
Make OCs?
They make OCs and they make fucking fan fiction.
Donut steal!
So it's, I mean, I'm sure to some extent it's intentional because everyone working on the show knows how to cultivate a fan base because they're all in the industry successful. Especially the writer, again, Urobuchi, who's done a lot of stuff, and he loves it. It was his idea to present the series as if it was just not dark. So
because the way that you would have to do that to get people to start watching it is you have to kind of spoon feed them for a minute, and then they go, okay, well, I'm now invested in this. I'm going to finish it. Once you get them past that 5 episode limit, they're like, yep, I'm into it now. Especially with Madoka Magica.
Yeah. Because
that's when, the plot starts to thicken.
So.
I guess we can talk about the selfless wishes, which are generally actually very selfish in it. Most people, the amount of power that you have is, 1-to-1 ratio to what your wish was.
Yeah, it is affected by what your wish is, because what your the less human you are, the better of a magical girl you are.
Right.
So, the more that you ask for, the more you give of yourself.
Right.
So, because...
Right. Right.
So, yeah, that is true.
Yeah, because Mommy wished for her to survive an accident.
Yeah, like she was dying, and which is... I like the variety in the wishes, too.
That is the most human wish.
Yeah, just like
I think.
she was going to die, and she didn't want to die, so she asked to live, but I think she says that she wished she would have saved her whole family, and she didn't, so now she's alone.
Right.
Which, of course, drives her whole character, which... I don't know. Do we want to get into the characters as we go, or kind of...
Yeah,
we might as well. So let's just talk about Mommy now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of her central tenet of her characters, that she's so lonely that she wants companionship.
Right.
So she doesn't... And to be fair, she never forces them. She never, threatens them or forces them. And she talks about how lonely it is and how it sucks. But the way she talks about it is also in a self-pitying way that makes... especially Madoka feel bad for her, and they're like, well, we want to be heroes, we want to be there for you, and of course that's not exactly how it works, that's not what happens, but... Right.
I think the thing about her as well is that she kind of takes on this, big sister role, because she's, they're what, second years,
yeah,
right? And I think she's,
no, they're in middle school.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're, I'm not positive what year they are, but yes, they're in middle school.
Yeah, she's, older.
They're in our middle school. I know that. They're 13-ish. So.
Oh. I know that she kind of takes on almost a big sister role.
Yeah.
And she... I don't know how I want to phrase this, but she does kind of guilt trip, like you said, she does kind of guilt trip them into helping her.
Yeah. And I don't know if she necessarily completely does it intentionally, but the way she describes the job... And the way she describes how it kind of sucks is still in a way that makes her pitiable and makes them feel bad for her. And obviously, if they feel bad for her and they care about her, they want to help her. So. Right.
Oh, I kind of remember what I was going to say. So, the wishes... So, some people, Sayaka Kyoko kind of mentions that for every good of the wish that you get, an equal amount of bad has to happen.
Yeah.
So, I think that's kind of what happens here is... The sacrifice that she made for her wish was that she had to be lonely and, pitiable. And then, as soon as she gets her two friends, or whatever, proteges, she fucking dies. So, the condition of her wish that she has to be alone is broken, therefore her wish is gone and she dies.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Sayaka, she wishes for her childhood friend's arm to be fixed so he can play the violin again. But then all of a sudden, her and Madoka's other friend goes hey, I'm going to confess to him, you got a problem with that? And she has to be forced to say, no, I don't have a problem with that, because she's a walking corpse.
Yeah.
Also, are they kept warm? Are they, warm?
Yeah, I mean, their bodies are still, they still work. But I think they said they don't have to eat because they don't need energy.
Right.
So that doesn't matter. And then also, they... Because the only thing that's taken out is their soul.
Right.
Because, as it said, the soul is what makes you you. So
right.
It's a functional body. They just don't need energy and shit, and they don't need...
But as soon as, your soul gem gets thrown away, you cease to function. So what I just... They never have an episode in the winter. There's never an episode of the winter, which would kind of be a nice little Easter egg to have, where if they were talking to Mommy in the winter, you couldn't see her breath, even if you could see. See, that'd be kind of a good indication of something's not right here, but yeah.
That would be interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Right, and Kyoko's wish was for her father's church to be full.
For people to... Because the way she describes it is that, people... He was he didn't go on the beaten path. He kind of had his own ideas about whatever the religion is. So, therefore, people, called him crazy, and they saw him as an outsider, and nobody listened to him, and he and his family were poor. And she wanted people to believe him, so... She asks for people to believe everything he says.
Yeah.
And so that means he gathers this gigantic following. But when he finds out that that's what happened, he like curses her name and calls her a witch and wants nothing to do with her because he sees it as evil and manipulative. And
Right.
obviously, they portray it as the way he's religious. That's obviously something that like somebody who is evil would do. So
Right.
the way the religion, there's not really too many religious aspects in the show, but the way it's portrayed in that is very like almost medieval kind of.
Yes.
And like the hive-mindedness of it and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is interesting just because of the inspiration and the time
Right.
period it comes from.
Right. Oh, I guess I should, kind of going back to the visuals, there are a lot of calls to Faust, like just literal lines from Faust written on walls and shit.
Oh yeah, no, it's explicit. It's not like
Right. Well, because it literally is like a Faustian bargain.
Oh, yeah.
You get this good thing, but then like you have this condition that has to be met. And in Faust, he gets to kind of the backstory of Faust is he wants to live forever, and Mephistopheles goes, "Sure, you can live forever, as so long as you never want to be dead. As long as you never wish for death, you will live forever." And towards the end, he is spurned by a woman he falls in love with, wishes for death, and fucking dies and gets dragged to hell. So there you go. There's your Faustian bargain.
which is obviously inspiration to the series.
Right.
So,
did you want to talk about before we talk about Homura's character, because she is the one character I can really go in depth on. You want to talk about what their magics are?
yeah, I was gonna say something about mommies and I forget.
She made guns.
She made guns. That's cool.
So hers is the ability to create single shot, seemingly flintlock rifles, because there is rifling in them.
Yeah.
So she just makes more and more guns, which is kind of cool, because you don't see in a lot of like magic shows where somebody's ability is just make gun.
Gun.
Right.
Gun.
Press X to gun. And then Sayaka's, she just makes swords, which is also quite interesting. Mommy also has that, like, ribbon that she has. Yeah. And then
Kyoko's got the spear.
Yeah,
that's also like a whip, because it's segmented.
Yeah. Hers is... She also makes more spears. Yeah. They don't have, like, a weapon that they pick, and then that's, like, the theme of their magic.
Yeah.
Except for Homura.
Yeah, because she has time.
Time is the greatest weapon of all. No, she also has weapon imprinting, too. Is it imprinting? Or does she just, like, store them?
I think she stores them. I don't know where. She has, like, a hammer space where she stores them.
Right. I think, to me, it'd be cool if it was, like, weapon imprinting, where she just, like, touched it and was like, okay, now,
the only reason that
From Fate, God, what's his power?
I forget.
Where he makes the marble, the reality marble.
I know what you're talking about, and I forget.
God, I can't ever remember.
But yes, that
so bad.
the only reason that I don't like the weapon imprinting is a cool power.
Yes,
but in terms of her character in the story, I like the fact that she has to manually get them,
because
it makes her life even shittier. Because that means she has to, in order to, like when she fights Walpurgis Nacht, and she has all that shit set up, she had to stop time and set it all up herself.
Bro, who would win? Who would win? Batman or Homura?
With prep time.
Equal amount of prep time. Who would win?
Homura, obviously.
I don't know, bro. I don't know.
She's got Zowurldo, so.
She does. Okay, well, who would win? Dio or Homura?
Homura. She can stop time. It doesn't. What's the limit?
There seemingly is no limit.
She never uses it for like. Well, I guess she has to, because she like sneaks into military bases and takes shit out.
Right.
So she just can't like affect the world necessarily. She can't affect other people or objects. So she has to like, if she shoots a missile or whatever, she has to stop time to make it hit. You know what I mean? Because she'll like take a rocket launcher, shoot it, and the rocket will come out and freeze. But you would think that like.
Oh, right. So, like, when Dio throws the knives, they all stop once they leave his hand.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. would it be kind of cool for her to be to shoot a gun, the bullet stops, keeping all of its inertia, she just walks over and puts the bullet next to somebody's head,
Yeah.
and then just shoots through.
Yeah, you can get creative with it.
Yeah, you could have so many cool powers with stop time. Also, one thing I've never seen in anything that has time stop powers, which would be really cool to have, is time bouncing back. Because for every second that time stops, it has to rebound. So time goes faster. So that way somebody has to limit the amount of time that they stop because they don't want time to go too fast.
I'm trying to think if I've ever seen that in anything before.
And I don't think I ever have. But it would make sense. Because
if you just think about it like a Newtonian physics sense, then it makes perfect sense.
Right. But also
in terms of cartoon superpowers.
Right. Well, you also have to think, are they stopping time for the entire universe? Because you'd have to.
Yeah.
And that's the most broken ability ever. Because the only thing that can affect time is fucking gravity. So, is time stop the most powerful gravitational well in existence, and that's why it stops time dead in its tracks?
Yes.
It has to be. A black hole?
Yes.
Damn.
So, well, we glossed over Kyoko and Sayaka a little bit.
Yes.
So, let's just do Sayaka.
Yes.
Because I don't have a ton of stuff to say about her. I like her character. She's interesting. Yeah. I like the dichotomy in how she's always a little bit tomboyish.
Yeah.
But when she gets mad, when she gets upset or mad, she is vicious. Kyoko's always comes off as mean spirited, even though
right.
But my main example is when she gets depressed and shit, and she's furious, and she goes on a rampage against that one witch, and also when she maybe kills those two guys that are
right.
talking shit on the subway.
Yeah.
So that's something that I thought was interesting. Just
she's
there's no other character that is as dichotomous as her, because she
right.
goes from feeling so good about being a magical girl to it's I love that it's her character that's the demonstration of the process.
Right.
Because I mean, obviously we don't know this for sure, but I would like to think that hers is one of the fastest from here to here character, transitions in history. Because what she lasts 4 or 5 days maybe. Right. From magical girl to death, because
it's like giving a recovered crackhead free access to crack.
Yeah.
And it's down.
So I like that she's the demonstrative character. And she's Monica's best friend, so obviously
right.
She's viewing...
It hits home a bit more.
So, and, yeah. The wish, I think we already talked about a little bit. It's obviously it has I don't think she's mean-spirited, but it has the selfish aspect because she wants...
She's like a spurned Jerry Springer girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
She's real nice at first, and then as soon as her other friend goes, yeah, I want to fuck your man, she comes out dragging hair. It's
and what I do like is that she doesn't do anything to Hitomi.
No.
Because she's not necessarily mad at Hitomi for having the feelings or confronting her and saying this is what I'm going to do and do what you're going to do. She's upset. She hates herself.
Right.
And that's of course why she dies, is the rage turns inward and she becomes a witch. So right. Rip in peace. I like the last scene with her.
Yes.
In the last episode in the theater.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yes. Where she talks to Madoka a bit, and Madoka's like, yeah, I can't bring you back. There's no going back for you. And Sayaka's like, that's fine, as long as I get to hear him perform one more time. And then she presumably goes on to Magical Girl Valhalla.
Yeah. So,
which is the coolest concept I've ever thought of.
And do you have anything else you feel about Sayaka you want to bring up?
I like her uniform with the cape.
I like her uniform. I like the stuff with her witch too is really good, interesting aesthetically.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's demonstrative of how it reflects the characters. It's the example that you're supposed to take and think about the other witches that you see.
Right.
All right.
Do you want to talk about
Kyoko? Let's do Kyoko next.
Okay.
Kyoko, I've always really liked Kyoko a lot. I think she's my second favorite character.
Yeah. she takes the tragedy of what happens with her family and just decides to go, fuck it, I'm gonna go ANCAP.
Well, there's a few things that I like her design. Her design's good. It's not. I don't love the design, but
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like my favorite in the world or anything, but she has a nice design. I like her style and her weapon, and I like her whole story, and I like her demeanor. She's fun to watch. She's entertaining. Yeah. I like how she's presented kind of villainous, so you never really know what side she's on, because she's almost an anti-hero.
You know what I'm disappointed about?
What?
She doesn't have a scythe. It'd be way cooler if she had a scythe.
That would be
no
cool.
character in the show has a scythe.
My favorite thing.
Every anime needs a person with a scythe.
So all of that stuff makes me really like her character. What tips it over the edge to make her like one of my favorites? Just because her and my favorite character somewhere. Both of them are like two characters that I really, really, really love. Just in general. Not just from this favorite in the show. I just really love them both as characters. And what blew my mind almost more than anything else in the show the first time was how she's always eating all the time. And you don't think anything of it until you find out her backstory where she was fucking starving all the time.
Right.
So now she will not waste food. She's constantly eating all the time.
Right, even though she doesn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah, she has no... it's especially nice because she never has to eat, but it's like psychologically she has to be eating all the time because now she has the ability to, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like it's like somebody who grows up poor and then as soon as they get money they have to buy everything they want because they never had anything they wanted when they were growing up, you know?
Right. And it's, because they don't feel pain anymore.
Yeah.
Or it's very dulled sense of pain.
And they can almost turn it off, too.
Yeah. And she can just eat and eat and eat. She probably, can you imagine if you just ate all the time like that? You'd feel fucking god-awful.
I wonder, and I know their energy is explicitly from the soul gems or whatever, but I wonder if that has any effect on. I wonder if they do make energy still in their body, and they have to burn calories and shit, or I mean they don't have to, but I wonder if that has any effect. I'm just curious.
See, well, to me, the way that it was that I took it from the explanation was that
it makes no difference.
Their bodies are just inanimate.
Yeah,
like she's literally just eating, and it's going in just into her body, and it's just staying there.
Yeah. And
not doing anything. But what was it? I don't remember. I lost it. You went on your tirade.
I don't know. Does Kyoko poop? That's the number one question that we're asking the audience.
Damn. I don't know.
And then I feel like we covered Madoka too, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
I like her relationship with her family.
Yes.
A lot too.
It's the most functional anime family I think I've ever witnessed.
Yeah. Like they are, they're chill. They are cute together. Yeah. They have like a nice routine. Right. The dad cooks. The mom is a stay-at-home dad, so of course the whole show is about magical girls. So they put a little like feminism twist in it, where she's the head of the household or whatever. Especially in Japan,
right?
Where that's even more abnormal. And then I like her mom a lot as a character. Her mom drinks responsibly. Right. When does that ever happen in an anime where a character uses substances responsibly?
Right. So one thing that I do kind of want to say that I just remembered, they do a lot of bait and switches with what you think Madoka's wish is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because at first you're like, oh, Madoka's going to wish for her mom to become the president of the company. Then you would think she's going to wish for mommy to come back. Then you think she's going to wish for Sayaka to come back. And it's just kind of really... Then at one point, I almost thought she was going to wish for what to wish for. Like that one episode of SpongeBob, the Shanghai episode where the Flying Dutchman gives him 3 wishes. Yeah. Patrick's wish is like, oh, I wish I knew what to wish for.
Yeah. And then, so...
That'd be the best twist ever. She's just like, I don't know what to wish for.
And I do want to say, you did call her wish about an episode or 2 in advance, I think.
Did I?
I think I remember you saying, or I don't even know if you seriously meant it, but I think you said she's going to wish that magical girls didn't exist or that witches didn't exist.
Oh, yeah, I was going to exist. Because I guessed that when Kyubey was explaining the purpose behind the magical girls, because the explanation is fucking crazy. He's like, I'm actually like a vessel of a super advanced alien species. We're trying to prevent entropy because we're way more like advanced than you, and
emotions are a disease.
Yeah, emotions are a.
We eat ourselves. We eat our own corpses.
Well, no waste, bro. No waste. And they're like, yeah, we figured out that so we have to add energy to the universe, so the entropy is like delayed. And they're like, we figured out that you weird ape creatures, especially you teenage girls, when you experience strong negative emotions, the release is like the most powerful energy we can find. So we're farming you. It's literally, he says, we're farming you like sheep. And they gather that energy, the Cubase do, and it furthers the universe from entropying. And she goes, wow, that's really fucked up. That's crazy. And then I was like, dude, her wish is gonna be no more magical girls or just like some crazy shit like that.
What I like about Cubase, and I think that you could call this story, in certain ways it is a sci-fi story because of the premise.
Yeah.
And what I like about Cubase as an alien species, is a lot of times in sci-fi you have aliens
the species is not, Cubase is not, he's like,
I know.
He's just like the cute little avatar of the alien species.
Yeah. Well, I guess we never really find out if they all look like that or how they look, but I would assume they
just made a cute mascot to trick these girls. Because, like, what a teenage girl's like more than anything? Cute bullshit.
Well, that's the only thing they're ever called is Cubase or Cubase. So whatever, the Cubase race.
Yeah.
What I like about them and what makes them good antagonists in a sci-fi story is that in a lot of sci-fi stories, the alien species is like trying to kill humans, or they need human flesh or some shit like that. Like they're farming humans or they're killing humans, but it's very like, grotesque. Why are humans different? You know what I mean?
Right.
But what makes Cubase and it makes it more horrific how they do it, because they're preying on what makes human beings human and what makes them different than animals. And it's an interesting way to put something higher up on the food chain. Right. Than humans. That's not just, they can kill humans and eat them, you know what I mean? Right. They prey on something that humans pride themselves on, and, you know, makes them unique as a species.
Right. It's like disturbing to think about.
Yeah. It's
horrifying. So do we kind of want to talk about Homura's wish?
Yeah, we can just do her whole character. I've been kind of saving everything.
The timeline that we are watching, that you watch for the majority of the series is what, like the 7th or 8th timeline?
It's more than that. We only see 7 or 8.
Right. Homura her magic is time magic. So basically she has another one bites the dust, essentially.
Well, and that's her, and it's her wish too. So really she can't be denied saving Homura saving Madoka unless she gives up. Right. Because she wished for the ability to save Madoka, so.
And, like, that, and Madoka is, like, her, like, guiding light. Every time it gets dark, Madoka's light is there, and that's kind of, like, the bigger theme for what Madoka's wish is, too, because she just becomes that for everybody. Yeah. Like, her presence, her existence becomes the center of Homura's universe, her own inner universe. Yeah. And then, by extension, and Homura's focus on Madoka becomes essentially the center of the universe as a whole.
Yeah. Yep. And I just, from the beginning, when Homura's presented as, like, there's always the mysterious character. Right. Or, like, the dark character, you know?
And it's weird, and you know something's off with her, because she seems to teleport, for one. Yeah. Which is one of the best demonstrations of time travel ever. Yeah. And she just knows things that she shouldn't know. Like, she knows where the nurse's office is, and the school that is supposedly her first day.
And just she has a lot of aspects that are typical of, like, a dark, broody character.
Right, and she knows Madoka. Like, she just knows Madoka. She walks up to Madoka and goes, "Nothing bad's gonna happen to you." And Madoka's like, "Okay."
And all, like, she doesn't get along with anybody and all this other stuff. And then, of course, when you get to her episode and you find out what the fucking deal is, it's deconstructing, of course. everything about that type of character.
Right.
Because what would make a person do that? Well, how about living the same month or however long stretch of time? It's a couple weeks, I think.
She Groundhog Days.
Yeah,
herself.
Groundhog Day, living over the same events over and over again, seeing these people that you come to love and care about die over and over and over and over and over and over.
How long do you think she does that? Like in terms of like
time?
How many times did she relive that
I'm
same?
I'm trying to remember exactly what they say. I'm gonna say probably months and months, if not years, of reliving it over and over again.
Right, and that'd be horrifying.
Yeah.
If that didn't make you Big Boss, I don't know what would.
So she's detached, and of course she's good at everything because she's had more practice than anybody.
Right.
And it's just all these like typical sort of. It's a typical sort of anime character, and they just rip it apart. And of course they wait till the end to do it. So you start to have an idea of what the fuck's going on, but you're not positive. And then her whole episode is probably my favorite episode of the show.
We got to talk about some of the different timelines they show. Which one is your favorite? That they show?
Yeah. The one where mommy freaks the fuck out and kills
everybody.
Freaks the fuck out
and just kills everybody? Yeah. That one's my favorite.
Because in a way, that's one of the most telling pieces about her as a person when you find it out. Because, God, like if she found out that she turned everybody into a magical girl to be with her, and that she actually like basically ruined them all, she would lose her fucking mind. She would. Right. I mean, it makes sense to her character.
Well, no, because the reason why she flips her shit is like, okay, we're all destined to become witches. This is bad. You're dead, and then Homura kills me, and then Homura and Madoka are like, yeah, we can handle while Purge is knocked. And they're like, no, they can't handle it where Purge is knocked.
Yeah.
Goes badly.
That's my favorite one. I think they're all interesting, they're all sad. You could probably show a bunch more, and
that could be like its own series almost. Every episode is a different timeline that goes very, very wrong.
If you want to be depressed, the show, then
right. So they do kind of expand upon. So at the end of episode 12, after Madoka rewrites existence, they kind of show
the new world.
The new world or whatever, and they made a movie about that one, right?
There's a trilogy of movies, and the first two are recaps of the show, and then the third one's a sequel that takes place in the new world. And
what do you need a recap movie for?
Money
of a show that is 12 episodes. I get that, and one of those episodes is all recap anyway.
And a 12-episode show is about 4.5 hours, which is two movies. So
just like I just don't understand why you need how many movies to recap ever. Well, they're
not even recaps. Anyway, after a point, it's like starting at the same place and going somewhere else. But we've talked about that before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get a glimpse of the new world, and it's not like, that's one thing I like, is although like the ending is idealistic, that she can become the center of the universe and save all these girls from a terrible fate. It's not like she doesn't make the world perfect.
Right.
Which would feel a tiny bit like a cop out. And that's another thing I actually wanted to say about the time travel too, that does the same thing, is that although in the end it works out, but although she is able to reset time every time so everybody's fine, of course she's still affected emotionally and psychologically, and the universe is not immune to time changes.
Yeah, that's what I like the most about that. It's like,
because it's in something that's not as well written, time travel might like just get everybody out of everything,
right?
Which is, that's no fun. So it just makes the story feel more lazier. So that's one thing I like about it. Yeah, the movie I don't want to talk about. Maybe if we watch them, we can make a video about that. But that's its own deal, and they're not very good. So. But I'm down to watch them and do a video about them if you want. But right. I like not to think about those when I think about the show, because
right. Did you want to do our favorite moments?
Yeah, mine is all of episode 10. The entire thing. Yeah. But especially just the first couple of minutes when at the beginning of episode 1 when Homura meets Madoka, and it shows all these shots of them walking and the way she turns and the way she walks and the way the shots are set up, and it's almost completely reversed. It was originally when Madoka was leading Homura, and it's just a good way of showing off both how the cinematography like reinforces the story and just Homura's character in general. So. Right.
My favorite moment has to be in the episode about halfway through. I think it was episode 4 or 5, maybe 6, like somewhere kind of in the middle, where Kyubey is talking to Madoka, and Madoka almost...
When it's in the dark and they're sitting on the bench or whatever?
Yeah. And Madoka is like, if you can make my wish come true, I'll become a magical girl. Kyubey goes, is that your wish? And she goes, I wish to, and then you just see Kyubey's fucking head explode. And you're like, what the fuck? And then up walks Homura just shooting the fuck out of Kyubey. It's terrific.
Yeah.
It's great. And then another Kyubey runs up and like eats the corpse of the previous Kyubey. Gross. No wasted energy.
They're fucking nasty.
Yeah.
That's why they're good aliens, because it's just nasty.
They're like ants.
Kind of.
Yeah.
The good aliens are ones that make you like, God, what the fuck?
Right. They shouldn't just be like green humans with weird ears. They should be like
Star Wars. Unfortunately.
I mean, it's hard to make a lot of...
I'm not saying Star Wars is bad because the aliens aren't that interesting, but
it certainly adds to like the unease that the show has, because you never get comfortable watching the show. At least I never did.
Yeah.
There was not a moment in this show where I was like sitting down like, oh, I'm comfy watching this show. This is like, it's not a turn your brain off and kind of watch show. It's, wow, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like, what? Like, why the fuck? What the fuck? How the fuck? You just don't know.
Who the fuck?
Right. Like, half the show, you're wondering, like, what's up with Homura? Why is Homura like this? And then when you find out, you're like, Homura did nothing wrong, and I feel bad for her. Yeah.
So it's good shit.
Yeah.
Endings. I've always really liked the ending. So.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything, but there's another show that I'm also a fan of that has a super similar ending, and I watched that first, and that kind of makes me sad that they have similar endings, because it felt a little bit to me like, I think main character becomes a god can be a little bit tropey, but I think Madoka does it really well.
Right. Yeah.
And it's annoying when it's dissatisfying, and Madoka's not dissatisfying at all. It's good for the themes. It makes sense for the characters, and like I said, it doesn't get them out of all. It doesn't it's not like a get out of jail free card. You'll never suffer again. Everyone's happy forever. Right. It's just now you have a chance.
Right. So Madoka stronger than Goku and Superman?
Yes. Madoka's the strongest character of all times in any cartoons. She wins.
Cool.
In death battle, she wins.
100%. All right.
Fuck you and fuck us.
Yeah.
Bye.